Hello and welcome to Fatima TV. I'm John Vennari from Catholic Family News. I'm here with Chris Ferrara, well-known writer, my colleague, and we've been talking about the Synod. We really haven't been covering it the way a journalist would, an official journalist would cover it, in that they just present the news and they take what the press office says at face value and report it as the real thing. Because there's much more going on than just taking that approach. What do you say?
Well, of course, what really matters here is what's going on behind the scenes with the 10-man drafting committee and the Pope himself, of course, the guiding force behind this whole, I have to say it, three-ring circus of a synod. So we're not here to treat this as if we were typical Vaticanists reporting on a dry news story, but rather as Catholics concerned about what's really going on behind the scenes, which threatens to be quite explosive, as we see with the Pope's speech this past Saturday on the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Synod by Paul VI.
And the date of that speech was October 17th.
Yes, October 17th.
Okay. So what happened there?
Well, you know, we've been afflicted by one new paradigm after the other since the Second Vatican Council and its absurd and disastrous opening to the world. We became the Church of Dialogue, the Church of Ecumenism, and even Francis has introduced a new paradigm with the Church of Ecological Conversion. Well, now, here comes the next paradigm, the Synodal Church.
Yes. Now,
in this address, the Pope speaks of a church that is entirely synodal. Now, the Synod was something created by Paul VI in 1965 to further yet another novelty, the novelty of collegiality.
Yeah, the main
whatever
purpose,
that means.
The main purpose for the Synod was really, because I mean I've written and studied this, it really wasn't for the good of the faith. It really wasn't for the good of the church. It really wasn't for the good of souls. It was for the good of collegiality.
Yes.
They came up with this new program of the council, and they needed a mechanism to keep the collegiality going, and that's what the Synod is. So it is a secondary or tertiary program now that's become primary.
Well, of course, and like the other novelties, dialogue and ecumenism, collegiality has a very elusive meaning. It savors of a democratization of the church, but as you see with Francis, it also serves as the velvet glove within which is the iron fist. In the name of collegiality, he intends, evidently, to impose upon the church, if he can do it, a whole new vision of the church as a collection of national synods. He threatened to do this in Evangelii Gaudium, talking specifically about the Orthodox model and praising Orthodox ecclesiology, and now he's fulfilling that threat. It's that simple. So in this speech, he speaks of a church that is entirely synodal, governed by councils of bishops in nation after nation.
Well, I think too what the viewer should know is that this isn't his own original brainchild.
No.
This has been something that's been in the works from really the most radical, modernist, and I'll use the word perfidious cardinals that we've had in modern times. This is the brainchild of the St. Gallen group with Cardinal Martini, with Cardinal Casper, with Cardinal Daniels, the working of Archbishop Quinn. They really call for a complete decentralization of the church, and you end up with national churches. And the program that was called for in Archbishop Quinn's book, this de-Romanization and the decentralization, Cardinal Bergoglio, 2012, he met Archbishop Quinn by chance here in Rome, and he said, "I've read your book, and I hope that the ideas within it prevail." Well, and as Pope, he is able now to make it happen. Try to make it happen anyway.
It seems alarmingly enough that the Pope may be guided, literally, by the last book he read. Because you know that when he went into the conclave at which he was elected, he was given a copy of Cardinal Casper's book on mercy, and he read that during the conclave, and then he came out advocating Casper's program. Now apparently, having read Quinn's book, he's advocating Quinn's program. Yeah. And what he's really talking about is a revision, if that were possible, of the divine constitution of the church, because as Cardinal Ratzinger said, the National Episcopal Conferences have no part in the divine constitution of the church. They could be abolished tomorrow. You know, they are an administrative novelty.
And it's interesting you should say that, because the cardinals on whom Francis relies for this new structure, they were furious with Cardinal Ratzinger over that. Casper, Martini, yeah, they were very angry. as one of the things they complained about was this idea that the national bishops' conferences don't have the real importance. He doesn't see them to have the real importance that they're supposed to have.
Well, with the speech that he gave on the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Synod of the Bishops on Saturday, like so many of the speeches of the post-Vatican II epoch, is filled with meaningless slogans. So we have the slogan that the only authority is in the form of service, as if there's a disjunction between authority and something other than service, namely simply commanding somebody to do something. No, now authority must only be service. Well, there are services and then there are commands that people don't want to follow, but they must because of the authority of the ruler. In this case, the Pope would command adherence to certain moral teachings, and that's not simply an office of service. And then he speaks also of the Church on the basis of this idea that all authority is service, the Church as an upside-down pyramid or an inverted pyramid, and the summit, he literally says this in the speech, the summit is at the base and the base is at the summit. Now, with all due respect to the Pope, this is obviously complete nonsense.
Well, it's lunacy because if anybody has a model of a pyramid at their homes, try to stand it up on its point and watch what happens. Try it if you don't believe it. It falls over. This is an inversion of what common sense demands.
Well, you know, I spoke to a very prominent Vaticanist during the press conference yesterday about this idea of synodality in the church, the fragmentation of the church into basically national churches. And his reply was, I won't name him, I don't want to embarrass him. His reply was, oh, you needn't worry about that, because if some bishop or national bishops conference becomes heretical, you simply complain to the Vatican, and the Vatican will rectify the situation.
Where has this man been for the past 50 years?
We were speaking in Italian. I didn't have the heart to tell him, because he wouldn't have taken it very well, because he's a true establishment Vaticanist,
yes.
that the Vatican hasn't done that for 50 years.
No, nothing.
Why would they start doing it now?
Well, anyway, we're running out of time here, so how do you want to sum up this episode?
Well, I think there are some very disquieting and explosive surprises for us in the weeks ahead, which will go far beyond this synod.
Oh, yes, that's one thing Cardinal Coleridge said yesterday in the press conference, and my ears perked up very well. He said this synod is going to have dramatic ramifications for the future. This is just the beginning of a fracturization of the church.
Francis is on a mission, and I'm afraid to say it's not the mission that Christ commissioned 2,000 years ago. I'm sorry, but I have to be frank about that.
And if there are any prelates or cardinals watching this, please, for the sake of the faithful, stand up to this.
And say no.
Say no.
Call a press conference. Put a stop to this while you still have the chance.
Because loyalty to the faith and teaching the faithful is more important than loyalty to a wayward pope.
Yes, well, the cult of Il Supremo has afflicted the church for too long.
So anyway, that's all for today, and hope to see you tomorrow. This is John Vennari and Chris Ferrara signing off for Fatima TV.